America's greatest cultural export wasn't invented by anyone white, and the whole world knows it except us. 1895, New Orleans, Louisiana. A cornet player named Buddy Bolden assembled a band that would change music forever. But here's what makes this revolutionary. Bolden and every musician who created jazz were black Americans taking the music enslaved people played in Congo Square and fusing it with the brass instruments of European military bands. Louis Armstrong said it perfectly. If New Orleans is the cradle of jazz, then the Gold Coast of West Africa must be the mother. Here's the history they glossed over. From 1817 onward, according to New Orleans city ordinances, Congo Square was the only place enslaved Africans could gather in large groups. Every Sunday, hundreds would convene with drums, marimbas, stringed instruments that looked like early banjos, creating rhythms that wouldn't die even after slavery ended. Those rhythms became the heartbeat of jazz. The improvisation, that spontaneous, unrehearsed brilliance that defines the genre, came directly from African musical traditions. The call and response patterns, the bent notes, the emotional depth, all African. Then black musicians in New Orleans picked up cornets, clarinets, trombones, European instruments, and made them sing in ways Europeans never imagined. Buddy Bolden's band started playing in 1895, according to jazz historians. His style was so loud, legend says you could hear his cornet for miles when he'd call his children home. He blended blues, gospel, ragtime, and those Congo Square rhythms into something completely new, jazz. Unfortunately, Bolden never recorded. By 1907, he was committed to a mental institution where he died in 1931. No recordings exist, but musicians like Jelly Roll Morton, Kid Ory, Sidney Bechet, and Louis Armstrong all said Bolden showed them the way. Then in 1917, a white band, the original Dixieland Jazz Band, made the first jazz recording and claimed they invented the music. They didn't. They copied what black musicians had been playing for 2 decades. But here's the irony that should make you angry. Jazz became America's calling card to the world. According to State Department records during the Cold War in the 1950s and 60s, the U.S. government sent jazz musicians like Dizzy Gillespie, Duke Ellington, and Louis Armstrong on international tours as cultural ambassadors. The goal? Show the world that America valued freedom, creativity, and diversity. Except back home, those same black musicians couldn't eat in white restaurants, couldn't stay in white hotels, faced Jim Crow segregation every single day. The government used jazz to convince foreign countries that America respected black people while denying black people basic civil rights. And it worked. Jazz spread across Europe, Latin America, Africa, Asia. It influenced every musical genre that came after: rock, pop, hip-hop, R&B, the improvisation in freestyle rap. That's jazz. Artists from the Beatles to Beyoncé cite jazz as inspiration. By the 1920s, jazz defined the entire era, the Jazz Age. It changed fashion, poetry, dance, women's liberation. According to cultural historians, jazz clubs gave women spaces to challenge traditional gender roles. It broke down social barriers. It was rebellion wrapped in rhythm. Jazz isn't just music. It's America's most successful cultural export, influencing global culture for over a century. And it was created entirely by black Americans who were denied credit, denied payment, denied recognition in their own country. So when people talk about America's contributions to world culture, remember this. The greatest gift America gave the world was born in the same city where enslaved people were bought and sold. Jazz came from pain, from resilience, from African traditions that slavery couldn't kill. If you didn't know jazz was created by black Americans, you're not alone. That's by design. Comment below. What genre of music jazz influenced most, in your opinion? Share this with someone who thinks America's cultural power came from anywhere but black creativity. And if you want more stories about the culture they tried to steal credit for, follow. Because jazz wasn't given to the world by America. It was taken from black people who created it and then used to make America look good.